Hotel World. Welcome back to the Chosen Few channel, man. Look, I got a good one for y'all today. First, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I appreciate all of the beautiful comments that you guys leave in the comment section, man. The ones that show up on every single video, man. I appreciate it. Y'all motivate me. Y'all keep me going. I just want to say that. Thank you. You know, y'all always saying thank me for the content. Thanking me for the motivation. Thanking me for the education. Well, I thank y'all for being interested in it. For real, for real. On my platform, like I always say, I'm just trying to bring inspiration, motivation, and education. So on to the education. Y'all see the title, man. This is a good one, family. Check this out. We're going to be talking about blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, in the black church. Yes, blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, in the black church. And we're going to be doing this pretty fast. So buckle your seatbelt and let's go on this ride, family. I'm finna bring it to y'all like it's never been brought to y'all before and show y'all this history from the mouths of our ancestors to know exactly what happened in the past. Check this out. In order to know where you're at and in order to know where you're going, you have to know where you have been. That's real. So this time I'm taking y'all to the slave narratives again, but this time we're going to the state of Virginia. Remember, I told y'all these slave narratives are documented throughout several states. You have the Virginia slave narratives, the Texas slave narratives, the Georgia slave narratives, South Carolina slave narratives. What I suggest you do, especially if you have any kind of information about where your direct lineage comes from, I would start researching some of these slave narratives. You know, you can learn more details about what it was like. And then imagine if you find someone, they tell a lot of names and a lot of details. They may know someone that knew your ancestor. Think about that. Blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, the black church. We're going to be looking at the ancestor Charles Crawley today, family. Charles Crawley. Now check this out. Charles Crawley, may your name live on forever and may your memory never die, was born enslaved. It was born before the Civil War. And he belonged to the islands. And he was enslaved in a place called Lynching County, Virginia. But shortly after the Civil War, he moved to a place called Petersburg, Virginia. Now check this out. The place that his family, him, his mother, and his sister moved to in Petersburg, Virginia after the end of the Civil War, they actually acquired the property that they were living on from a colored lady named Sis Jackie. Now, Sis Jackie was sometimes called the mother of Harrison Street Baptist Church. And Harrison Street Baptist Church was one of the oldest in Petersburg, the black church. I want to point out something to you guys. When I read these slave narratives, the church, the black church, comes up over and over and over again. But I want to highlight something. The mother of Harrison Street Baptist Church, Sister Jackie, the mother of one of the oldest black churches in Petersburg, obviously was also a landowner because she sold the land to Charles Crawley family. So we see moving and shaking and opportunities being provided by Sister Jackie. May your name live on forever and may your memory never die. The mother of Harrison Street Baptist Church, one of the oldest in Petersburg, Virginia. Right? Now, check this out. Let's look at a few things that he tells us about his time during slavery. Remember, we're talking about blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, and the black church. Check this out, family. He says, you said something about how we served God. Now, remember, this is an interview. So sometimes you see the ancestors speaking as if they're responding to a question because they were being interviewed by the federal government to document their stories about slavery so that we would have access to this history today. So he says, you said something about how we serve God. child, I tell you just how we used to do. We used to worship at different houses. You see, you would get a remit to go to these places. You would have to show your remit. If the patty rollers caught you, they would whip you. Days in the way they done in them days. That's the way they done in them days. Patty rollers is a gang of white men getting together, going through the country, catching slaves and whipping them, beating them up if they had no remit. Master Allen wouldn't allow no one to whip and beat his slaves, and he would handle anybody if they did. So Master's slaves met and worshiped from house to house. And honey, we talked to my God, all us wanted. So we see what this ancestor experienced going to church during slavery. What they didn't have a particular church building that the quote-unquote black church was held in. They held church from house to house. They would pick a location, pass along the information where it was going to be held, and then everyone who was trying to attend the church services would have to get a remit or a pass or written permission from the slave master, Master Allen, and to actually travel from where they were at to go to the services. And if they didn't have a remit, if they didn't have a permission to go to church, and they were caught trying to go to church, they would be whipped and beat by these individuals called patty rollers. And you can imagine some people probably got whipped and beat that had a pass. It's just how it was in those days. And I want to point something out. It's interesting that this is how church was being conducted in our history on these shores, because when one looks to the book of Acts, right, when one looks to the book of Acts and one looks at the origins of the church itself, that's how it was being held. It was from house to house, right? In different houses, they were meeting to have church, and they were communicating where church was going to be held. And it's not the exact same thing, but in the book of Acts with the early church, there was persecution going on. And we can see with our ancestors, when they were trying to worship, there was persecution going on as well. Blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites in the black church. We're looking at the slave narratives from the state of Virginia. Let's go a little further and see what the ancestor has to say. Did you know, he says, poor whites, like slaves, had to get a pass. I mean, a remit like as slaves, to sell anything and to go places or do anything. Stop. I just explained how the slaves, the colored people, they had the answer. They had to get a pass or remit to move about freely. Now, this ancestor is pointing out that poor whites had to get a pass just like the slave. They had to get a remit to sell anything and to go places. So to even do business, they had to get permission. He says, just as we colored people, they had to go to some big white man like Colonel Allen. Colonel Allen is Master Allen. They did. If Master wanted to, he would give them a remit or pass. And if he didn't feel like it, he wouldn't do it. It was just as he felt about it. That's what made all feared him. Old Master was more hard on them poor white folks than he was on us niggers. Now, we'll never play the game like white people had it as bad as black people during slavery. We're never going to play that game, but for the sake of the conversation and just to look at the historical record that the ancestor has left, we're talking about blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, the black church. So we have to acknowledge that these poor whites in certain situations were getting handled as well. Let's not pretend, right, that everybody was rich, owned slaves, was just having it their way. A lot of people have ancestors, even though their ancestors are white, but were doing bad in the past. He goes on to say, I don't know but 2 sets of white folks slaves up my way. So now he's talking about distinctly 2 sets of white folks slaves. He says one was named Chapman and the other one Neloves. These two families worked on Allen's farm as we did. Off from us on a plot called Morgan's Lot, there they lived as slaves just like us colored folks. Yes, the poor white man had some dark and tough days like us poor niggers. I mean, they were lashed, look at this, lashed and treated, some of them just as pitiful and unmerciful. Lord, baby, I hope you young folks will never know what slavery is and will never suffer as your foreparents. Oh God, I'm living to tell the tale to you, honey. Yes, Jesus, you've spared me. Blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, and the black church. Two families enslaved, first-hand account from the ancestor. But check this out, family. You can imagine that as time went on, the enslaved Africans were beginning to get more and more upset, and there were always rebellions, revolts, and they was always trying to get free. So you would think in your mind, why didn't anybody just say, you know what, enough is enough, and just start killing the people that was abusing them? Aha, they did, family. Oh yes, they did. But you have to know where to go get the accurate information. See, these slave narratives, listen to me, these slave narratives, this is on the ground, living it. They seen it, they experienced it, and they're telling it from their perspective. You're seeing what slavery was like from the actual enslaved, how they felt and what they did. Check this out. Far as I think, if slavery had lasted, listen good, it would have been pretty tough. As it was, some fared good while others fared common. You know, slaves who were beat and treated bad, some of them had started getting together and killing the white folks when they carried them out to the field to work. Stop. Wait a minute. You know first-hand primary information. Take this to the bank. You know slaves who were beat and treated bad, some of them had started getting together and killing the white folks when they carried them out to the field to work. Blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, the black church. He goes on to say God is punishing some of them old suckers, and they're chilling right now for the way they used to treat us poor colored folks. I think by Negro getting educated, he has profited. And this here younger generation is going to take nothing off these here poor whites when they don't treat them right. Because now this country is a free country, no slavery now. I think by Negro getting education, he has profited. And this here younger generation is going to take nothing off these here poor white folks when they don't treat them right. Because now this a free country, so no slavery now. That's like a prophetic statement, man, when you really look at it. Blacks lynching whites, enslaved whites, the black church. This your brother Matthew Daniels, a.k.a. I'm Pooh, a.k.a. the chosen few, a.k.a. the real bookworm. I think you getting it, but I'm not just a bookworm. I'm the real bookworm. Make sure you get it right. Do me. Just put some respect on my name. Put some respect on my name. All three of y'all. All three of y'all. Put some respect on my name. The Real Bookworm. And hey, click that link in the description, man. Y'all know I got 4 books out, and y'all see I'm on my game. They banging books. Hit the link in the description. Go to the website. Order one or all of those books. I'm going to sign it and I'm going to send it right to you. That's coming directly from me, family. I'm going to sign it. I'm going to send it directly to you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm out.